And Peter, if you want to get started, I'm just going to ask everyone to please remain muted throughout the forum, and turning it over to Peter to get us started.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pete Miokin, Peter Miokin. I'm the president of the District 14 Democratic Club. We have the pleasure tonight of hosting this forum for the candidates who are vying to seek the seat that was vacated by our prior delegate, Eric Luecke. With that, basically, again, we appreciate your participating in this. This is more of an educational process for those of us who aren't involved in the actual selection process, which is actually the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee. And with that, let me turn this over to Saman Ahmad to introduce her leadership team.
Hi, Peter. Thank you so much. My name is Saman Ahmed. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin, first of all, thank you to Delegate Eric Luecke for his distinguished service, and we're sad to see him go, but wish him the best. Also, thank you, Peter, and to the Jerry Sama District 14 Club for hosting this forum. We've got 24 members of the MCDCC, many of whom are here, but in the interest of time, I just want to take a moment to recognize the new leadership of the MCDCC. I'm the chair. Pamela Luckett is vice chair. Teresa Warman is secretary. Andrew Sondry is treasurer. Marco Rivera-Oven is assistant secretary. And we've got Jason Spiegel as assistant treasurer. So we're all excited to be here, and we're extremely, really grateful for even the opportunity to meet with the candidates and hear them speak.
Great. Thank you, Saman. I also would like to acknowledge all of our elected officials who are participating in this forum. I can't name everybody just because we have quite a number of elected officials signed up to view this forum. So I'm just going to say thank you for your participation. And you all know who you are. We know who you are. And again, thank you. Basically, what I want to do is tell you that this forum is basically going to consist of a minute of opening statements. We then have 5 questions ranging from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And then we'll have closing statements of 60 seconds. There will be no questions entertained from the audience as far as asking the candidates. You are welcome to put your questions down in the chat section, and the candidates have the opportunity, because this session is being recorded, to go back and respond to your questions if they feel they need to. And with that, hopefully we'll be done by 9:15, 9:20. Again, depends on the length of the questions. At this point, I'd like to turn the mic over to, the microphone over to Michael, so that he can tell you what the process he's going to use to time the candidates and so on and so forth. Michael.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. I just want to let you know the logistics for this Zoom event. The forum is being recorded, and the recording will be made publicly available later this evening. The link to the recording will be sent to all registered attendees. I ask that your Zoom name be your full first and last name. We do not permit anonymous attendance. And if you have a generic Zoom name, please change it to your full name. If you don't know how to do that, send me a private chat message and I'll change it for you. Please remain muted for the entire forum. Closed captioning is enabled. We will be using the Zoom Spotlight feature to highlight the person speaking. Set your Zoom view to gallery view to avail yourself of this feature. I'm using a stopwatch to track time, an analog stopwatch. 15 seconds before the end of the allotted time, I will spotlight the next speaker as a visual cue to the current speaker. At the end of the allotted time, I will call time and we will move on to the next speaker. Due to the number of applicants and attendees, we regret that we'll be unable to field questions from the audience. The public chat will be open, however, but we don't anticipate being able to take questions from the chat. The public chat will be recorded, and applicants may, at their discretion, respond directly to questions posed in the chat following the forum. This is why your full name is very important. Let's see, what else do I have here? Any public chat must be conducted in a civil and respectful manner, and we reserve the right to remove anyone from the meeting who does not comply with this request. Turning it back over to you, Peter.
Right. And what I'm going to do is basically, because this is a position vying for a state delegate position, I think it's only appropriate for us to recognize the state delegation from District 13. So we have our Senator Craig Zucker, we have our delegate Pam Queen, Delegate Ann Kaiser, and of course, we have the vacant chair for which you're vying for. And with that, I'm going to start with Nathan Feinberg with the opening statement. Nathan, you have 60 seconds.
All right. Good evening. My name is Nathan Feinberg. I'm a lifelong resident of Montgomery County. I grew up in neighboring District 19 and have lived in District 14 for the past 3 years. I'm the husband of the greatest wife in the world and the father of 3 amazing children. Our oldest is a first grader at Page Elementary School. I graduated from nearby Kennedy High School, where I worked for many years. I've worked for MCPS for 15 years and currently teach high school math. I care deeply about our community and want to see it preserved for future generations. I want to continue the work of making our schools the top in the nation and protect our natural spaces. Right now, though, many people in this district are struggling. Young families priced out of the housing markets as rent and childcare soar. Will our children be able to enjoy the fruits of what we have built here, or will they be priced out of the very communities they grew up in? For the sake of our communities, it is incumbent upon us to stake out a future where housing, healthcare, and childcare are affordable to all, while our schools, environment, and public safety are protected and allowed to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Jody?
You're muted, Jody.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jody Finkelstein, and it would be an honor to serve as District 14's next delegate. I grew up in Montgomery County and have made Boney my home for the last 2 decades. I've dedicated more than 25 years of my life to improving the lives of Maryland's families, and I hope to continue my advocacy work in Annapolis, building upon my experience as a former nonprofit executive director to create and influence smart and effective legislation. I'm here this evening because I feel my lifelong experience will bring a fresh perspective to Annapolis. My background in social work community organizing will provide the legislator with a different point of view, one that is even more empathetic to individuals and families. I ran for delegate in 2010 and came in a close fourth to Delegate Eric Lukey. I was honored to receive numerous endorsements, including the Washington Post and Pro-Choice Maryland. I've chosen to seek this office once again to bring my legislative and policy
That's time, Jody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Paul?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Geller, and I am running for the District 14 delegate seat. For many years now, I've been known as one of the staunchest advocates for our Montgomery County public school students. But what many of you may not know is I've spent a great deal of time in Annapolis advocating for successful things, such as the casino lockbox for education that started with work that I did, as well as funding our geographic cost of education index. If I receive your nomination by the MCDCC, I'm going to focus on 3 areas: education and the environment. We have to get greater casino gambling revenues into our schools, solar panels on our schools to defray costs. We have to work on the economy. Job creation is very important. I want a Maryland Innovation Center right here in Montgomery County. And we have to focus on our seniors. Our seniors have paid their dues, and many of them are leaving our county and our state, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Thank you, Paul. Bernice?
Hi, my name is Bernice Maricune North, and I am running to be your next delegate for District 14. I am a resident of Colesville, but a longtime Montgomery County native and a public school mom. I'm a lifelong community and legal advocate. I'm a former prosecutor, a managing attorney of my own law practice, and recently have served as co-chair of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. So I've proven to be the advocate that District 14 needs for stronger, healthier, and safer lives, as well as a collaborator of all our diverse voices in District 14. To represent District 14, I would like to, 1, make sure we have greater access to resources that promote healthier lives and that includes mental health services and other services for our youth. Also make sure that we're building safer communities, and that means supporting law enforcement, as well as making sure that we have the right resources to improve pedestrian safety. I also want to make sure that we are building our community stronger with stronger connections to our communities, making sure that all aspects of District 14 are heard so we can provide
That's
better
time, Bernice. Thank you.
services. Thank you.
Matt?
My name is Matt Post. I'm a former school board member, gun safety advocate, local nonprofit leader, and I'm running to fight for this community that's been home my whole life. Our district today faces profound challenges of education, of safety, and of democracy. This moment demands that our next representative arrive in Annapolis ready. Our next delegate must be ready to navigate elected legislative office. I've done it. On the school board, I built a track record of getting progressive policies passed, like expanding pre-K and securing almost $1 million for our English language learner students. Our next delegate must be ready to bring more people into our democracy. Young voters stopped the red wave this election, but their perspective too often goes unheard in government. Activating young voters is the work I did for March for Our Lives, and it's the work I'll bring to this role. Finally, our next delegate must be ready to represent this community. I know this district because it made me who I am. I'm ready to continue fighting for us in Annapolis. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Rahman?
Good afternoon. My name is Hafizur Rahman. I am an immigrant, first-generation immigrant with professional credentials like CPA and CGFM, and Certified Government Financial Manager. I have a law degree, which is Executive Juris Doctor from Concord Law School of Purdue University, Global. Since my coming in 24 years before in the United States, I try to balance my professional life with my commitment to this community and for the nation. That's why I concentrated myself, started working with the agencies and private organization as the Assistant Director of Finance in Washington Center for Aging Services. At the same time, I contributed providing services at the local level, community level, to the even highest level as a ranking fellow to the State Department of United States of America.
Thank you, Hafizur. That's time. Raj?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rajendran. I'm very new to this, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So I've not been in politics before, but why am I qualified then? Well, I've been a Maryland resident for the last 12 years. We own property, we own a house in the county. Both our kids went to Montgomery schools. I've started a small business startup in the county. I've also done a nonprofit. So I know how the local business works. And I've been a federal employee for the last 13 years now. And before that, I was in the IT field for almost 17 years. I have about 30 years of execution experience. So I would like to bring forth all my capability to make sure I get stuff done. I've been reading up stuff. I'm going to give my best shot. I'm willing to give up my federal career now to come and work in this position.
Thank you, Raj. That's time.
I'm looking for an opportunity. Thank you and happy holidays, everyone.
Paul?
My name is Paul Schwartz, and I want to open with my experience and how it will enable me to hit the ground running as a District 14 delegate. I was a federal official for more than 35 years with U.S. Customs, the Department of Homeland Security, and after Katrina, FEMA. In that role, I was intricately involved in the development and implementation of critical national legislation. As an advocate at the state level, I was a relentless advocate for the Firearms Safety Act of 2013, and I was instrumental in the passage of last session's Retirement Tax Reduction Act of 2022, which passed unanimously. The sponsors of that bipartisan legislation reached out to me to help craft the language. My experience at both the federal and state levels of government places me in position to tackle such critical issues as pharmaceutical pricing, public election financing at the state level, codify what constitutes a commercial sale of guns, bring Vision Zero into
Thank you,
focus
Paul. That's
and
time.
incentivize the purchase of long-term care. Thank you.
Tom?
Thank you, Michael. My fellow District 14 neighbors, D14 delegation, and Democratic Central Committee members. It is wonderful that you decided to join us tonight. I am honored to have spent the past 20 years in public service, first leading combat medics in Iraq and Afghanistan, next leading a civilian medical team in a Syrian refugee camp, then serving 3 years in US Congress and doing policy work, and currently as a special assistant to our amazing Lieutenant Governor-elect. During these 2 decades on the front lines, I've seen that the best types of friends, leaders, or parents are not the ones who claim to have all the answers. It's the ones who show up and can be counted on each and every day to be right there next to you, listening, learning, then leading. That's why my team and I first started knocking on doors in February in D14 with a simple mission: the courage to care. The courage to care, to truly listen to our neighbors, learn what they need to solve our shared challenges, and the courage to lead with empathy that fosters hope and creates lasting change alongside our neighbors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom. Doug? You're muted. You're still muted. You're muted in Zoom. Peter, do you want to go ahead and ask the first question, and we'll give Doug a chance to make his statement? You're muted, Peter.
Yeah, let's go ahead. All right, so what we're going to do is go to our first question. And the first question will be by Paul Schwartz, will be responded by Paul Schwartz. And the question is, the teamwork and the close relationship amongst our senators and delegates, our senator and delegates are legendary and has contributed significantly to the accomplishments for our district. How will you continue this? Please provide a couple of examples of teamwork you participated in, resulting in significant accomplishments.
I mentioned before about my federal government service. And one of the things I was tasked with after Katrina was to build relationships between the federal government and the state and local governments to identify vulnerabilities and needs prior to the next event, not during. And let me tell you, that required a lot of buy-in. I also worked for DHS, as I mentioned, and the task there was to integrate 26 disparate federal agencies under one umbrella, DHS, back in the early 2000s. And that took a lot of getting buy-in. So, and lastly, I'll mention that getting that bill passed last year, I had to work with both Republicans and Democrats because it was bipartisan. And that was really crossing the aisle. So working across the aisle. So if I can work across the aisle in the legislature, I can assure Ann Kaiser and Pam Queen and Craig Zucker that I'll be on your team and we can work together.
Thank you, Paul. Officer? You're muted, sir. You're muted, sir. Mr. Rahman, you're muted. We can't hear you. I'm going to come back to Mr. Rahman.
Okay,
Tom?
Tom?
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, very big shoes to fill with this entire delegation, especially with Delegate Lukey. Like you said, Peter, they are renowned for their top-notch constituent services. I would love to put that work in. If you call the D14 team, we will get back to you within 24 hours. If we cannot help you, we will connect you to our county council, amazing members, our county executive, or our federal delegation. Also, I know it's important. We have a large Latino community, a large West African community. I really think we need to have constituent services that is bilingual and trilingual, at least with Spanish and French. I would love to build a higher constituent services person that speaks both of those languages as well. And then finally, I also want to do monthly town halls alongside my colleagues from East County to Up County. I would like to also invite our other change makers in this county, whether that's our county council members, whether it's our county executive, Congressman Raskin, Trone, or Ivy. And then finally, I'd love to get their feedback on which committee that I should serve on alongside them. We have Delegate Queen on Economic Matters. We have Delegate Kaiser on Health and Government Operations.
Thank you,
and then
Tom. That's
Senator
time.
Zucker. Thank you.
Mr. Terry, you're muted, sir. Mr. Terry, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself in Zoom. We'll come back to you, sir. Bernice, you're muted.
Okay, that I know I'm muted. This is an excellent question. I have been familiar with the political world of Montgomery County politics since 2006, 2007. After I finished school, I got involved with the party right away. So I've got to know Craig, Ann, and Pam in that respect. And trust me, when I applied for this position, I made sure that I was going to be okay with being a team member for them. And it's very important to have that team mentality, because it's the reason why District 14 is so strong. It's the reason why there's so many families living here, because it's a good place to live. It's represented by people that actually care about this community and want to see it grow. And that's going to involve teamwork from the get-go, not someone who is going to be combative or be an island, but really be a team effort person. I'm a former prosecutor. I was prosecuting Anne Arundel County, a very different world from where I grew up. But I knew the value of teamwork across our differences because of my work on state.
Thank you, Bernice. That's time.
Thank you.
Mr. Terry?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to give you a minute for your opening statement and a minute to respond to this question.
Okay, I get a minute now.
You get 2 minutes now. 1 minute
Oh.
opening statement, 1 minute to respond to the question.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I prepared a tightly edited 1 minute statement, so I can ad lib a little bit if I have 2 minutes. I'm watching the clock. I come to you tonight as the candidate for change. And one of the changes I think we must address is how we appoint people to our state legislature. We all know that this is not a democratic, straightforward process. I make no aspersions. I cast no negative vibes or anything else on the committee. You've handled your job well, and you've done what you were supposed to do under the roof, but we must change. Up to 25% of the legislature is appointed every session. The Washington Post editorialized against it. We can find a better way. This does not mean that the committee would give up all of its responsibility and key role in determining who would fill a vacancy. But think about what we're doing here. One person will represent District 14 for 4 years without having been elected. This should be the last time we ever do this without getting significant public impact. We have a state senator and a state delegate who were appointed to their first jobs. And from there, you roll on and roll on for the career that you want. Unfortunately, we live almost in a news desert, so we don't get a lot of news even to make judgments about how well individual people are doing. My passion in life has been dealing with the racial problems of this country. When I was a teenager, I rode 36 hours by bus from Texas, where I had spent the summer, to attend the March on Washington led by Dr. King. The other passion I have is innovation. I believe we can use our government and our legislature much more effectively than we do now. And it gets down to the details. I realize that individuals cannot have a huge impact in a legislature. But if you look at—
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug. That's 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Raj?
So teamwork. I can prove that I've been good at teamwork because I have been in execution of projects for the last 30 years. I have a reputation at my federal workplace and everywhere that I get stuff done. You can't get stuff done if you don't work with people. You have to be able to work with people all the time, at every instant. I park my ego in the parking lot and I go into work and I get stuff done. I would bring the same work ethic to this position and work with anybody and everybody to meet the goals of the project at the hand. You know, teamwork is, and I've started a nonprofit. I've started a small business. You can't succeed in a nonprofit or in a startup business if you don't know what teamwork is all about. Thank you.
Mr. Rahman, you were muted the last time, so I'm going to give you another shot at this question. Please unmute yourself. You're muted, sir. There you go.
Any new question?
It's the original question that Paul asked. Paul, do you want? Excuse me, Peter. Peter, do you want to repeat the question? You're muted, Peter.
How do I feel about working in a team spirit?
Yes, that's a question. Yes.
The team spirit with the legislators or the senators and others. At MCC, we had the opportunity to invite all the senators of Montgomery, of the Maryland, plus our congressmen, and usually they used to come over here. And you know, MCC clinic is a milestone in the faith-based clinics of the United States. Here, community leaders and legislative leaders, including the official of the Montgomery County, are associated. Almost $1 million a year this clinic gets from the community government. And I am proud that when I was a treasurer of NCC, then we have been able to commission these great facility.
Thank you, sir. Jody?
I say this in the office all the time, and I'm going to say this this evening. Teamwork makes the dream work. A seasoned community organizer in social work is not able to pass enabling legislation, successful legislation, without working in a team, and better yet, a coalition. In all the years that I've been working on domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and reproductive health work, nothing gets done without an effective team. Advocates need to work in a team, and those advocates and that coalition also need to work with the leading sponsors and the delegates. And that's exactly what we're doing right now to be able to work on the reproductive health issues that we'll be addressing the General Assembly right now. And that's being done in concert with the wonderful D14 that we have, along with all the other legislators in Montgomery County.
Thank you, Jody. Nathan?
Yep. So as a teacher, teamwork and collaboration is a part of our daily life, right? That's what we do. You are always collaborating, working with other teachers, working with administrators. Teachers work in teams. It is a group project. Of course, our classrooms themselves are a collaborative experience where we build teamwork with our students, where we create environments that our students can collaborate and work together in teams. This is an essential part of education. Outside of that, when I first left college, my kind of first political grassroots experience was working for the Obama campaign as a volunteer. I traveled to various parts of the country, from rural parts of South Carolina to working class neighborhoods in Cleveland to right here in Maryland and Northern Virginia. I have always worked with people of many different backgrounds, from many different walks of life, and been able to organize with people I just met in order to make that work, as well as organizing and volunteering overseas. And también yo hablo español fluentemente.
Thank you, Nathan. Paul?
Es muy importante que tengo un miembro del equipo que habla una otra lengua. I want to be a member of the team because I add something to it. I know how great this team is because I've worked with them off and on for years now. We need someone, after the news today of also losing State Senator Pinsky, who's joining the administration as well, who's one of the staunchest advocates for public education in the state. We need an educational advocate to fill this role. And for the past decade, I've been doing everything in my power to raise additional funds for our students. So far, just from the county, I've been able to raise $836 million additional dollars over maintenance of effort that have funded the hiring of more than 600 new teachers and hundreds of new staff members. We need somebody who could come in here, hit the ground running, who understands Annapolis, who understands District 14, and someone who's going to give their all. I've been doing that for 10 years and I'll keep doing it for 4 more.
Thank you, Paul. Matt?
The D14 team is legendary because it pays huge dividends for the people of this district. And the health of our democracy depends on people feeling like they're being heard and like government is working for them. I'd point to 3 things. 1, my record of being a team player on the school board. 2, I think I'm uniquely qualified to pitch into constituent services on school issues. And 3, I'm positioned well to bring even more people, particularly young people, into the process. On the school board, learned how to be a team player, work collaboratively, communicate, share the credit, put your head down and get things done. It yields policy results. And my ability to be a team player and secure progressive wins is why I'm endorsed by my former school board colleagues and D14 voters, Jeanette Dixon and Mike Durso. Second, the D14 team's collaborative approach to responding to constituent requests works. And I'm eager to join that team method and bring expertise in school issues. I know the school system, I know the players personally, and when folks have issues, I'll be uniquely qualified to connect them with help. Third, I'll work my tail off to bring the perspective of this generation into the process, a perspective I think we can continue to work to add.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, the
Peter.
next question will be answered by Paul Geller. Paul, the question is, tell us what might be your top 3 priorities with broad-based benefits and impact to residences and or businesses of District 14.
And for all the remaining questions, you have 90 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you for the question, Peter. I think this is fundamentally one of the most important parts of this job, or what can you get done? As I mentioned in my opening, I have 3 focus areas. Education and the environment are very important. We have to get greater casino gaming revenues here. You're looking at one of the only people in the state who's been constantly and doggedly pursuing a greater percentage of casino gaming revenues for our public schools. We have to fund the blueprint for education. It's going to be over $3 billion. Taxpayers shouldn't bear the whole burden of that. When we voted in 2008 and 2012 to allow first video lottery terminals, which are video slot machines, and then table games, we were told the primary purpose was to raise revenue for education. 38.25 cents on the dollar of every video lottery terminal dollar go to our education trust fund, and a paltry, appalling 15 cents on the dollar of the table game revenue goes to our schools. This is not right. I'm going to fix that percentage. I'm going for 45% across the board. We need solar panels to defray the cost of energy costs in our schools. On the economy, we have to build up our job base here. We have to provide job training for folks. And we also have to get our seniors involved. I want to have them involved with more volunteer opportunities and make it easier for them to stay here.
Thank you, Paul. Jody?
One of my first priorities for all of Marylanders, and of course, individuals that live in D14, is to work with the Maryland General Assembly to pass reproductive rights bills for all Marylanders, in particular women. The more choices that women have, the more economically free they can be. And that way, everyone will have more access to more jobs. And that's why reproductive freedom is so incredibly important. The second thing that I will work on and with is the D14 and of course, Montgomery County government. They have several priority capital projects that will certainly bring more businesses into D14. The first is the Burtonsville Park and Ride. That will certainly help with transportation and transportation access. The second is the Damascus Library and the Senior Center refurbishment. The more that we can do to refurbish and re-enhance the buildings that we currently have will bring in more people and certainly more jobs.
Thank you, Jody. Raj, you're next.
Okay, so what are the top benefits that I would like to work on? The first one, of course, is jobs. We have to make sure that Montgomery County is leading on the jobs front. So it's a technology corridor. Make sure I will work with all the other delegates as a team to make sure we continue to be at the forefront of getting the best jobs to Montgomery County and District 14. And when the jobs come, you need to have affordable housing in place. So we meant to make sure there's equitable, sustainable housing for all the people who are going to get those jobs. And I was reading the report of Thrive 2050. I would like to explore that package and make sure that, we're able to work towards that planning. That's number one. Number two is there's been a lot of divisions within our society because of Trump. There needs to be some kind of healing to take place. I would like to see how we can bring people together, and so that we're not, there's less divisions. I would like to work towards that. And education and school safety is always a high priority. And we'd like to make sure that our schools are safe and we have the best education and we have a safe environment.
Thank you, Raj. Matt?
Our district faces a web of urgent and intersecting crises, but I will briefly discuss three. Our schools are overcrowded and understaffed, gun violence is near an all-time high, and our government is too inaccessible to too many. On education, we need to bring back state funds for overdue school construction projects like Banneker and Burnsville Elementary. We need to ensure that the state's blueprint education plan addresses special ed and that the transition to higher teacher pay and universal pre-K happens quickly and equitably. We should bring back the universal meal program to ensure every child can focus on their learning instead of their hunger. And the answer to our teaching shortage long-term is to grow our own, create pipelines for Maryland Public Schools alumni to return as teachers. On gun violence, we need to catch up to other states, requiring the safe storage of firearms, strengthening concealed carry permitting, and banning guns around polling places. We should also lead the country in new models of gun safety, like hospital-based support for survivors, massively investing in violence intervention programs, holding gun manufacturers accountable, and potentially requiring gun owners to carry insurance. On our democracy, too many feel left out of our political process, and this is not something you can wholly legislate. We need somebody who can uniquely connect with young and disaffected voters, and someone with the energy to constantly work to make sure everyone in our district feels heard. It's the work that our D14 team have done well, and I'm eager to contribute.
Thank you, Matt. Nathan?
I would say for me, my top issues that I would want to focus on, it would be number one, affordable housing, education, and protecting our environment. I think we are in the middle of an incredible housing crisis right now, and it's something that my own family has experienced. We were actually about a year and almost 2 years ago evicted from our apartment, which turned out to be an illegally rented ADU, not for anything we had done, but for violations committed by our landlord. And we're told originally to head to a homeless shelter. The housing crisis is very acute in this county. The issue of retaining teachers ties in with that. How many teachers can afford anymore to live in this county? I was able to do it, quite honestly. We were able to buy our home only because tragically my mom passed away 1.5 years ago and left us her apartment in New York that we sold. It should not take intergenerational wealth and a family tragedy for someone to be able to access home ownership. So that is essential. And education, we need to fund the Blueprint for America's Future. We need to fund and expand trade education and give other paths. And too many of our students are not graduating college and career ready. And I think as someone who's worked in education, I have the experience and the perspective to bring that and to bring a lot of our young people coming out of our school system into the political process. And of course, protecting our environment is absolutely essential. One of the great things about living in this area is our parks, our forests, and our green spaces. And we need to protect that for our children and also make sure our children can actually afford to keep living here.
Thank you, Nathan. Mr. Raman, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
The priorities I should consider is always we have school, families, small business, environment. These are very basics, and we should all try for that one to achieve. It is told that Montgomery County is going ahead in respect of job creation. In fact, it is not. Even the county like PG County is ahead of us. And also some counties of Virginia where 10 largest companies are there, whereas in Montgomery County it is only one. And the whole state of the Maryland has only 4. My suggestion is, my concentration will be to have more and more federal funding for Maryland, because government of USA is basically in the land of Maryland. I like to mention that infrastructure also very important. $465 million capital budget of our District 40. Out of that one, only the state funding is having the third position. So we need to have basically work for the state funding more for these issues we are confronting in District 14. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Paul?
There are a lot of issues, but to narrow it down to 3, let me start off with healthcare. The Inflation Reduction Act that was passed was able to get some things accomplished, but not a lot of things that still remain open that the state has to address. Pricing of pharmaceuticals, for example. One of the things they did not tackle is that research and development costs are applied by pharmaceutical companies are applied only to domestic sales, not to the same exact product that's sold foreign, overseas. That has to be addressed. Pricing has to be addressed. The fact that they put a cap on insulin price for people under Medicare, what about the Marylanders who are not under Medicare? So those things have to happen. And including in that is the fact that long-term care insurance, we've been trying to get that passed for the longest time to give an incentive for people to get their long-term care insurance at an earlier age when it's more reasonable, more affordable. We need legislation because what's pushed back is that the short-term cost to revenue versus the long-term impact on the economy. We need to have incentives so that keeps people out of the nursing homes because that's the biggest cost for Medicaid, and Medicaid is 25% of the budget. The second thing would be safety. In 2016, during the campaign, the counties that held—
Thank you, Paul. That's time.
Okay.
Doug, Mr. Terry?
Yes, I'm coming. Sorry. I'm coming. I have to use this headset in order to hear when I'm not over there. I think it's foolish to try to specify specific things that we need to do, but I know there are major issues that we must address. There's a crisis with teachers across America. I think we should insist that an in-depth study be done. What is the problem? What is the solution? It's not merely more money. It might be overwork. We should look at that. Too many deaths on the highways. We have entered a golden age for finding out how accidents, crashes happen. We need to study that. We can save maybe 1,000 lives in a few years, 10,000 lives nationally. Why do we just give people a driver's license and say, go do your best? Shouldn't there be a refreshing course at some point? I back the new governor's plan conditionally for baby bonds, but the key is in the details. How do we handle that, and how much money is it going to cost? There are many other issues that I would bring up if I had more time, but I think what I want to do is assure you I will be there, I will pay attention, I will work hard, and I will use my experience and knowledge gained from many years as a reporter and watching the legislative process up close, sometimes not so beautiful to watch, but having attended Rules Committee hearings and other such meetings on Capitol Hill and interviewed dozens of House members and senators, I think I would—
Thank you, Doug. That's time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tom?
Thank you, Michael, for this really important question. And it's very simple for me. Those folks serving on the front lines, whether it's our educators, our social workers, our mental health providers, they are overworked and underpaid. We lost 5,500 educators in the state of Maryland the past year. And the reason I left my job in Congress, this is personal for me because I'm a foster parent. I'm very fortunate to have 3 wonderful kids that go to MCPS. Thank God, because of our social workers and our teachers, our kids are thriving. However, we've lost 2 social workers ourselves. They have left the profession after 20 years. This is not going to be, we'll fix this in 6 months. When these teachers and educators and social workers leave, this is a years-long process. So we really have to focus on recruitment and retention to make sure we're getting these top-notch professions. And also, I knocked on 6,000 doors across this county, from East County to Up County, and heard we need to do a better job uplifting voices in Up County, East County, but also our immigrant communities. I did that through 10 town halls and roundtables in the district, because I know I can't solve all the problems, but if I can bring the change makers in our community alongside our D14 team and our county council members to hear about the issues, see how we can tackle them together and take forward and make that lasting change that our community deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Bernice?
So 3 areas: public safety, schooling for our kids, and transportation, affordable transportation. Particularly with public safety, as a former prosecutor and also co-chair of a Reimagined Public Safety Task Force, I am acutely aware of the need to be holistic in how we're doing public safety, making sure our law enforcement is taken care of, but also making sure that we have necessary funds for alternatives to incarceration, like after-school programs for our youth. In addition to that, I think about pedestrian safety, ways to fund changes to traffic calming measures on our roads. I've also considered a possibility of improving the lighting on our state roads, potentially LED lighting, which lights brighter and uses less energy, which bodes well for climate change. On the second point of schooling our kids, I want to make sure that our blueprint is implemented swiftly, funding where it needs to be funded, that there's no delay in getting sure that we have our blueprint actually come into effect for the state of Maryland, including particularly the ones in District 14. In addition to that, I'm interested in looking at the expansion of an old program actually generated from someone in Montgomery County. I believe it was the late Sheila Hickson and Jamie Raskin, called the Farm to School program, named after the late Jane Lawton. I want to see how we can expand that to really bring more fresh foods to our students. We're talking about not just violence prevention, but we're making sure we're dealing with the kids as a whole. If we keep healthy kids, they'll be healthy students, and it'll make it easier on the teachers that are already overworked and understaffed. And also,
thank you, Bernice. That's time.
Thank you.
All right, the third question is basically this. Because D14 covers an area reaching from the agricultural reserve to urban areas, what are your priorities to get state funds to cover constituents, including businesses, needs? For instance, would you support an amendment to the Maryland Code that would permit farm breweries in Montgomery County to sell and serve food on their premises? And you have 90 seconds to answer this.
Bernice, you're first.
Okay, oh great, last and first, great. Well, I am a small business owner, so I am acutely aware of the need to make sure that we have laws in the books that help businesses thrive. I've been a sole practitioner for a few years now, so I know the struggles of small businesses and the creativity of small business owners to thrive. So what legislation is proposed to me, especially regarding the breweries, I will support, as long as it strengthens District 14 and the resources that it's going to bring to District 14. Now, as mentioned in the question, this area is very diverse. And the one thing about why I'm running is that my background as a daughter of immigrants living in Montgomery County, when there weren't too many African immigrants in Montgomery County, I got used to being in diverse rooms and making sure that we are all heard and moving forward together as one unit. No matter where I lived in the county, I grew up in Silver Spring. I made District 14 my home because of how diverse this district is. It's a challenge that I welcome to make sure all voices are heard, all the way up to Damascus and the little parts of Clarksburg and Germantown, all the way down to where I live in Colesville. My goal is to have all voices heard and have all needs addressed. And that's why constituent services is one of the premier points I made in my opening that I want to emphasize as the next delegate.
Thank you, Bernice. Tom?
Thank you, Michael, for that question. Without a doubt, unequivocal support for anything we can do to support our small businesses, whether it's from East County and Burtonsville all the way out to Damascus. This is also personal for me. We talk about quality of life and we talk about how we can support our small businesses. Transportation has to be part of this conversation. Me and my family lived in an agricultural reserve. My wife is an amazing large animal farm vet. So go agricultural reserve for supporting that business there. But I had to work in DC as a congressional staffer for 3 years, and it was awful. You know, the 2.5 hours every single day, I had to be in the car, if not longer. I did not see my family. And so that's the same issue when we have traffic across this district that prevents people from getting home to be able to see their families, decreasing their quality of life. And so I've spent 3 years in Congress. I know transportation is really hard to get those funds to make sure we can, honestly, in our small communities, like here in Burtonsville, this is why we moved here. is we don't have the walkability. We need to make sure we're supporting walkability, because if you have walkability, you can walk to your local school, you can walk to your local restaurant. That increases the overall quality of life. It also fights climate change. So those key issues, I think, are really important to make sure we're focused on supporting our small businesses, was making sure we also support our transportation infrastructure in this District 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Paul?
A great question. I think we need to, as delegates and, working together as a team, we need to work on specific issues that affect our community. Used cars over the past 10 years, traveling around the county, traveling around the District 14 area, listening to people's concerns. For example, in Burtonsville, fixing 198 once and for all, making sure that the business climate there is conducive to doing business, making sure that the state and local government helps and becomes a partner in developing those businesses to help make it easier. We need to create areas like the Olney Civic Center and Town Commons, projects that have been on the books for years. Why? Because businesses around there, small businesses for the most part, would thrive by having more people getting out of their homes and joining in these wonderful activities. Most of all, this is something personal to me. I recently completed an entrepreneurial course at the Maryland Innovation Center. I had to drive 40 minutes each way to Howard County to take this class. Howard County residents paid $15 for 10 weeks of course, where they taught you everything you need to know about starting and growing a business, or about helping to make your existing business go to the next level. If I am appointed as the next delegate, I'm going to see to it that we have a Maryland Innovation Center right here in Montgomery County, so that people who own businesses of any size can work together to learn their skills and craft to make Montgomery County grow.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Schwartz.
Yes, I'm definitely for it, because anything that helps the small business community in this area is critical. One of the benefits, maybe the only benefit that I got from running for a county council, is I really got an earful of a lot of the real strong issues that small businesses are facing, and improving the turnaround time, having a set turnaround time for approving things like permits and the inspection process, that's critical. So in this case, small businesses, that makes us thrive. When I went to speak to people in Damascus last time when I was running, they pointed out that their small businesses are suffering because the transportation isn't there to help the small businesses. So there are a lot of things that need to be done to help small businesses. You know, it's not just a District 14 issue or a Montgomery County issue, but when we lose jobs to Virginia, that's a state of Maryland issue. So we have to build our community to help the small businesses survive, and that legislation would do that, and that's why I would support it. Can I yield the rest of my time to my next question?
Thank you, Paul. Raj.
Hi. So a small business is the lifeblood of, small businesses are the lifeblood of any location. They are the people who get us a job. So, and I agree, and we have to take an approach where the whole county is benefited from our actions. So I would take some time to actually go and speak to some of the businesses in this area and get a real ground truth of what issues would really help them, and focus on that and go out and find the stakeholders who are going to help us get those benefits to the small businesses. You have to find out what they will tell. When you talk to them, they're going to tell you in what areas they need specific help. You have to focus all your actions on those specific requests from the small businesses, and then see how you can expand so that larger area gets the benefit, not just District 14. It has to be the surrounding areas too. We need to take a combined approach so that, you can work on issues that bring more, that makes a small business more successful in the district. I have started a small business in Maryland. I know the issues, I know the permits, I know the regulations, I know what it takes to make it work. So I would use my experience and also get help from, talk to people, make a plan of action and execute.
Thank you, Raj. Matt?
If we want to fully fund our schools and the amazing programs we have in the county and the state, we need economic development and the tax revenue that it brings in, as well as the critical opportunities that it creates for residents. As delegate, I want to work to make it easier for folks to do business here, create a better talent pipeline through our schools, and bring back money for economic development. First, we need to make it easier for businesses, big and small, to start and to thrive here. I want to work to modernize the state's online business portals, simplify regulations that don't make sense and pass ones that do, like allowing breweries to start on farms, explore reforming our state's procurement process, which doesn't always get us the best bang for our buck as taxpayers. Our schools can do a better job at preparing students with the skills they'll need, not just to go to college, but to contribute to our economy and community after graduation. I think we should fund the expansion of career pathways in schools, including the currently neglected agricultural program that can be particularly impactful for the future of our district. I think we should incentivize school districts across the state to incorporate financial literacy as a graduation requirement, so students graduate ready for the skills they'll need to work and to contribute to our community. We also need more state money for economic development in District 14 that will enable businesses to start here. The current D14 team have done a phenomenal job securing millions of dollars for our district, including $10 million for Burnsville Crossing. And as delegate, I'm eager to join in that teamwork to bring back funds for development here.
Thank you, Matt. Doug?
Yes, a lot of good points made here, and I particularly appreciate what Tom Smith had to say. I just raised some other issues related to this. If you go to the University of Maryland campus in College Park, hold on a second here. You will see a beautiful campus that looks like billions of dollars has been spent on it over the years. Not everyone goes to college and not everyone is suited or wants to go. What are we doing for those students? It's a big question that I'm sure there are very few answers to. Another point on highway safety and driving. What happened to sidewalks? A very simple thing. And I think the answer is the developers didn't want to put them in. We need to build a road environment that slows down traffic, makes it safer. 4 cyclists have been killed in Montgomery County this year. It's not that hard. It's not incredibly expensive, and we can do more and we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Nathan?
Oh, am I spotlighted? I don't think you spotlighted me yet.
I'm coming up. He
Okay.
finished early.
Yeah. All right. So to answer the specific part of the question, I absolutely would support the provisions allowing breweries and farms to sell food and beverages. I think it's always great to open up new opportunities for development for small business in our county. I think also that while I'm a big advocate for development, for building more housing and affordable housing, we need to do so in a way that respects existing communities. Right, we should keep our agricultural areas and try to preserve that as a viable avenue for people. And tying in with education, yeah, we do need to educate people into going into those fields in agriculture and also going into other trades. We need mechanics, we need electricians, we need plumbers. These are all necessary, vital things to a modern society, and so many other fields. College is great, but it is not the path for everybody. Only 2/3 of the population do not have a college degree. We don't need so much less regulation, I think, as smarter regulation. Small businesses, entrepreneurs should face a much lower barrier, regulatory speaking, in for entry. At the same time, we need to make sure we have strong regulations to protect the public and to prevent against monopolization and domination by a small number of companies or small number of developers. When we have development, which we absolutely need to bring funding in for development for both business and for housing, we need to do it in a smart way. We need to make sure if we're developing for businesses that we're setting aside spaces in that development reserved for local businesses and reserved for small businesses. We need to make sure that our housing development includes things that are accessible to everybody, doesn't displace existing communities, and protects our existing environment.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir. So this is a very important question. As I told in my prior answering the questions, that small business should be focused or addressed from an integrated perspective, meaning I know after COVID-19 and in these days of the rampant inflation and people in the small business are hard hit. So the integrated way it should be addressed, meaning that suppose the small business owner live in a house that environmentally he's not using the solar power. Only 11% in mainland using the solar power. So if we make incentive for them to do that one better, more and more, I think small business will go ahead. Small business also needs some funding. I know a lot of small business died during the COVID time. So the funding from the state and from the community is an important thing. And as it has been told also, the Maryland state is one of the most traffic jammed state in the country. So that they are able to go to their place of work, like plumbers and others. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jody?
Peter, I'm really glad that you asked this question because there might be a few individuals that are part of this evening that are outside of D14. So I just want to share with you a lot of these small businesses that the D14 team has already supported that are along the 108 corridor. Let me start with the Two Chimneys Cidery. Again, this is a small brewery and a small business that has already been supported by D14 team. If you keep going down through that part of the agri-reserve, then you hit the Lone Oak. You also hit the Brookford Brewery. And of course, if you keep going down a little further into Sandy Spring, very soon you'll have the Orney Winery. All of these small businesses were made possible by the ingenuity of their owners and their families and the hard work they put into it, but of course, also with the help of the D14 team and the rest of the Montgomery County delegation. My dad owned a small business, and it's the heart of so many communities, specifically some of the ones that I just listed. We need to continue to help them the best that we can, and then also do more on the state level. And Peter, I think you also asked a question if I specifically supported a piece of legislation on the state level. I haven't actually read it. It sounds like something that I might support, but again, I would turn to the D14 team because they've done such a phenomenal job of helping small businesses and particularly breweries.
Thank you, Jody. Peter, question number 4.
Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Question number 4. You have 90 seconds for this question also. And the question is, what are your plans to recharge the East County portion of D14, which has suffered economic stagnation as compared to the rest of Montgomery County over the last 40 years? And Mr. Rajendra? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir. So again, it comes back to the same principles. You have a problem, you need to get to the root cause of the problem. Why has there been stagnation? What is the root cause of it? I'm not 100% familiar with that region, but I would put my heart and soul into working and finding the root cause. Talk to people. I'm sure there are solutions which have been proposed. Look at the solutions and make a plan. Talk to people again and find out their concerns on the plan before you execute. So that's where I would start. And like I said, you have to do everything you can to make small businesses work in the district. Small businesses give jobs. The jobs lead to more housing, and more house needs housing, and jobs give more revenue. Revenue funds the schools. It's a cascading effect. So anything can do to make the small businesses work, we have to do it. So that's what I would focus on. Look at the root causes, evaluate the current proposed solutions, talk to stakeholders, get consensus opinion on the best approach, talk to people again before you implement the solution, and go out and help. Go out and make a plan and execute.
Thank you, Raj. Jody?
East County and Burtonsville is actually really a wonderful place. And while there's certainly been some stagnation in terms of growth, that is soon to change. The D14 team did a wonderful job this past year working with my actually dear colleague, Jeru Bandow, on working on the revitalization of Burtonsville Crossing. And really, that's just the beginning. There has also been a lot of growth in terms of educational resources. Most recently, Montgomery College is opening opening up in East County, which will not only bring obviously it will bring education, but more importantly, it'll bring access. It'll help through that education, it'll help bring access, and through access to education, of course, also jobs. Also related to that in East County are things, again, around education and jobs, but also workforce development and workforce development. Those two items are key to any community, but in particular Burtonsville, because of the new individuals that are coming and wanting to live there, and all the revitalization that is not only planning to occur, but will be enhanced with the further work that I can provide and the lessons learned from the D14 team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Peter, for this really important question. Personal for me, my family and I are honored to call Burtonsville home. Again, all three of our kids go to Burtonsville Elementary. But basically, when you say how to recharge Burtonsville and East County, that ultimately means our school here in Burtonsville, it's 1 and 2 folks are first or second generation Americans. So it really means how do we support our amazing, diverse immigrant communities. And I just talked to Cost in Action just a couple weeks ago, and they brought up something really personal for me. We need to make sure we have healthcare that we can support our immigrant communities. We have a pretty low Medicaid reimbursement rate, especially for undocumented immigrants. We need to expand that. For us, all 3 of my boys as foster parent use Medicaid. We have to drive 45 to 50 minutes to find a doctor that might take Medicaid because of how low the reimbursement rate is. So we really have to put that $2 billion surplus towards that. And then secondarily, I know this governor-elect is really focused on pre-K for all children in need. When you are working 1, 2, or 3 jobs, if you have the ability to actually make pre-K for all children in need, that is a game changer because people, you invest in our kids, you invest in our communities for the long term. So thank you so much.
Nathan, you're next.
All right, thank you. I think there are many issues, but there are 2 that I think create barriers for East County. I grew up just outside of this district, kind of just over the boundary, and I've been living here for a number of years. My children also go to public school here, or my oldest, who's old enough to be in public school at Page Elementary, and we plan to make this area, this district, our home for, honestly, the rest of our lives. And so I'm deeply committed into advancing the interests of this district. And I think that we do need to address some of the barriers and stagnation that has occurred. I think one factor that many people have talked about is transit. New Hampshire Avenue and Route 29 are some of the worst bus corridors, quite frankly, in the entire county. Very intermittent bus service that does not reach a lot of places. And if you go farther north to those agriculture areas that we were talking about in the district, even worse. What good is it to have a brewery farm up there that no one can reach, right? And so we need to address those issues of access and transit. And also, quite frankly, I think some communities around here, Briggs Cheney area, for example, have been ignored and left behind. And we need to change that. We need access to healthcare. We need access to childcare, universal pre-K, absolutely, for not just 4-year-olds, but 3-year-olds as well. So that people can do things like start their own business, right? We need funds available and training available for people in order to access those things from all backgrounds, and not only those who have the privilege to do so.
Thank you, Nathan. Matt?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to supporting the East County, there's nothing that we have talked about that doesn't touch that. We need to bring back construction funds for schools in the East County, like Burnsville Elementary. We need to bring back funds for economic development, like Burnsville Crossing, the revitalization of which will be huge for the East County. And we need to support the needs of residents in East County. It is one of the higher density in terms of renters parts of the district. We need to build more protections for the folks in our community who do rent globally, but this is a particular issue in East County. I'll work to finally pass just cause eviction policies to make sure that landlords can't displace a resident 60 days before the end of the lease for no reason. I also think we should just work to lower the price of housing in the East County, build more affordable housing and make the existing housing that we have there more affordable. It's not just a county issue either. The state can play a role at targeted relief, including a pilot program with funding for the local government to build housing specifically for teachers in the East County so they can afford to live in the district and around the schools that they serve. We should also look at ways of making homeownership more accessible to those without generational wealth. by expanding the Maryland Mortgage Program's First Time Advantage initiative and providing support to first-time homeowners on their down payment. There's a lot to do in East County, and I'm committed to that work.
Thank you, Matt. Doug?
Frankly, I don't have an answer to this. I don't have a clear answer to this question, except looking at the problems and investing. One idea that does come to mind immediately is an innovation fund, as opposed to putting up a $10 million building or buying space in a building. I really like the idea of contests to move on to new ideas into the future. If the critical part for somebody starting a new business is first a good idea, and the ability to prove that the idea is good, and then money. A little bit of money, a few $1,000s, sometimes can make all the difference. So if we can come up with ways that call on the people in these specific areas that have not been developed well enough, we get more back than we give in. The other issue I would raise is eviction. It's a big problem. It causes drastic rolling problems for people who get evicted. We need to look at how we prevent evictions and how we can help people once they are evicted. Our homeless problem has not reached the critical stage yet, but I'm hoping that we here in Montgomery County and District 14 might come up with ideas and solutions that we could help spread around the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Mr. Rahman?
This is a very good question again, because some part of the District 14 is backward than others, and it is fundamentally the problem of the overall chemistry of the economy. Possibly, as some of my applicants already indicated, that we do not have the sufficient statistics behind why they are backward. And one of the possible plausible reason is that educationally they are backward. I know in District 14, 5.6% people are under poverty line, meaning maybe one of the reason of that is lying there. So in order to remove these barriers, we have to work structurally, meaning we have to bring the adjustment to our educational policy, job creation, and overall, we the people should come forward to contribute for the reduction of poverty, especially in the Eastern District. And that's why whenever I wrote this book, Grassroots Gravity with the People, this is one of our fundamental problems that we should face and we should address.
Thank you, sir. Bernice?
Thank you. So a lot of what I'm about to touch on has already been addressed, but I would say as a business owner living in District 14, working in District 14, working from home most times, I have a growing base of assistants that are helping me where transportation is becoming an issue. So this is personal to me. Transportation is the fabric of economic growth, and having a district as diverse as District 14, it's important that we come up with not just affordable transportation, but very creative transportation options so people can work and live at home and be able to go to Lone Oak, within 20 minutes through various means, not just car. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run. I wanted to make sure that we have the tools in place to build healthier communities. And that's going to include be able to be mobile and not feel stagnant literally at one's home. I also think that the fact that we have the College opening up in East County is going to be great. So let's start our transportation efforts there so we can bring more young people to East County to make the economy thrive. And that's one of the reasons why, again, I wanted to run. Also, let's have a summit. We were talking about solutions, but let's actually bring everybody into the fold, have all the stakeholders on one table so we can have going forward one solution to move forward and making sure our economy thrives in District 14.
Thank you, Bernice. Paul?
The way to revitalize a community is investment. Investment in what? Investment in small businesses, as everyone has said. But in order to invest in small business, you have to have something to attract them. And that means, as I mentioned about Damascus, they said they have small businesses, but they're not thriving because of the lack of transportation. So the investment has to be in transportation as well. You get the small businesses up and running, that creates jobs to the people in the community. That's all benefit. That helps the economy. One of the things that I raised when I was running for county council is the idea of a county chamber of commerce, so that they could look at the areas that really need it and drive small business investments to those areas that really need it, rather than having the different small locations competing with each other. I think a chamber of commerce at any level needs to have really a marketing plan to attract small businesses to a community like East County. But in order to do that, you have to have the investment so that it makes it worthwhile. And again, making a less cumbersome process is something that will attract businesses to East County, to District 14, to Montgomery County, and to Maryland.
Thank you, Paul. Paul Geller.
I like this question a whole lot. As you can see behind me, I have a low-tech sign, because I believe sometimes the old ways are the best ways. And when I've run in the past, and I have run in the past for office, one of the things I enjoy most is going out to East County Citizens Advisory Board meetings. And not there really to shake hands, although I do enjoy that. I enjoy going and listening to what people are saying. For many years now, I've heard the frustration in their voices as they feel like they've been bypassed, and rightfully so. I tell you today, I will tell you every day, because you've seen me in your community, you've seen me advocating for your schools, you've seen me, take you, into the fold. As your delegate, I will be coming to the East County and all parts of D14 on a regular basis, through your libraries, through your businesses, to do one thing, to listen to what you have to say. The best intel that I ever got as a PTA leader and a community leader came from others. They shared with me their hopes, their dreams, and their aspirations. The idea of advocating for exceeding maintenance of effort for the schools back in 2016 came from a Board of Education member, Philip Kaufman, who said to me, Paul, you're crazy enough to ask for $100 million more than the school system has ever received. And because I had heard of teachers being fed up with class sizes that were untenable because we had overcrowded schools, I fought for it for 5 months with friends of mine, and we got it done. I want to do the same thing for the East County, east part of D14, the west part of D14, where they've been struggling with this M83 road for a long time and traffic issues.
Thank you, Paul. That's time.
All right, we're down to our last question. And this is also a 90-second question, a minute and a half. And the first question goes to Paul Schwartz. Paul, please outline how you will ensure equity and inclusion in policy making, fiscal appropriations, and accountability. I meant fiscal appropriations and accountability. You're muted.
Well, you have to listen, all right? You have to reach out to get input, and that's critical to making any decision. As I mentioned, my whole career has been trying to hear from others to make the right decision. So, the key with the state, that's where the money is. Willie Hutton said it's in the bank. I'm saying it's in Annapolis, because not just the money from the COVID money and the infrastructure money, but also the tax money. When the tax deductions for middle-class tax deductions were eliminated in 2017, that money went into the coffers of the church in Annapolis as well. So the key is to shake some of that loose. When I tried to shake it loose from Peter Francho, he said he needs to keep it in the rainy day fund. I spoke with Brooke Lehrman at length, and she's more open to actually making sure it's used for the benefit of the citizens of Maryland. So the key to the question is getting input from all players, all parties that are impacted especially, and then use that information to decide how best to utilize the money that we were able to shake loose from the Treasury.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Rahman? You're muted, sir. Mr. Rahman, you're muted. You're still muted, sir.
We have
There-
already
there
discussed
you are.
that mainland funding, state funding only, I think 36% of total 560 million budget, which is called 14 District 14, which is a capital budget. And most of them is WSSS bonds, and the second is the government bonds. So indication is we do not know the spending pattern, where the money is going and how much effective accountability is there. During President Obama, Data Act was introduced in this country. I think some sort of the regulation, Data Act, should be implemented in the state of Maryland so that spending can be monitored and can have the better accountability process done. And it is a well-known fact that without accountability and proper accounting of all these things audited, no system can work better. And I hope the legislators will be focusing in this respect, how spending be better monitored and evaluated so that next budget fiscal appropriation can be done accordingly.
Thank you. Nathan?
So I think equity and inclusion begins with constituent services and reaching out to the community of District 14. And that means not just responding, obviously, to issues that are addressed directly to the delegates or to the state senator, but reaching out to those communities. As I think we know that if you rely only on those people who know how to access the political system, that you're not going to get inclusion from everybody. So I think it's very important that we as delegates reach out to the members of our community, meet with different local groups, meet with PTAs, meet with civic groups, meet with small businesses, and get their direct input so that when we are allocating funds, when we are making fiscal allocations, we are ensuring that those funds are going equitably to all parts of our district and to all demographics within our district, so that we don't have a process where those with the most privilege and those with the most access are those who are most knowledgeable of the system are able to direct the funds their way. I want to direct the funds towards our district, but I want them to be equitably distributed amongst our districts, both geographically and in terms of which groups are benefiting from those funds. And I think this is an incredibly important part of serving the district. We are here to represent, at the end of the day, the people of the district, not our own personal feelings. And that's why it is essential that we get their input, homeowners and renters, in every project or funding that we engage in.
Thank you, Nathan. Tom?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Peter, for this important question. When someone says equity and inclusion, that just simply means we have to put in the hard work to make sure everyone not only has a seat at the table, but a seat at the head of the table. And in Congress for 3 years, I saw the power of doing monthly town halls. I did that on my campaign. I did 10 town halls across the district, and you put a whole lot of work. You knock on the hundreds of doors around that community saying, hey, this Sunday, please come out and share your opinion and your frustrations about the issues that we're doing. I just did a town hall this Sunday, had a great conversation about the needs of our community. And that's what I'm going to be doing as a delegate. I would love to work alongside the D14 delegation. And the end of the last weekend of January, I will do a town hall in person and hybrid option. And then 6 months later here in Burtonsville, I promise to do another one in Burtonsville. In February, I'll be in another part of the district. In March, another part of the district. Then once you start getting 50, 70, 80 people from East County and Up County to come to your town halls, that's where you start expanding, inviting the county executive, inviting our amazing county council members, Kristen Mink, as well as Don Lukey, to come to hear about that conversation. So when you have someone from the district and they have a county issue, you have county representation there. They have a state issue, you have delegates there. And eventually I'd love to be able to invite our congressional members. So now you have real engagement from the community. Any issue they bring up, you have a team right there to be able to address them first and foremost. And
Thank you,
finally,
Tom.
thank you.
Paul?
Equity and inclusion will be the foundation of everything that I do in Annapolis for the residents of District 14. Full stop. That's the way it should be. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years as an advocate for our school students and for our communities. I've been very fortunate in that people throughout the county, when I was county PTA president, as a candidate later on, would come up to me and they'd share their experiences of being treated differently, of being treated unfairly. This ranges the gambit, any group you can imagine. And it bothers me greatly. What I'm going to do as your state delegate is I'm going to be there for you, for the whole community. I've been very honored to be one of the first members of the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence. I don't look like what you would expect, but I go and I hear, and then I advocate, because when people see me advocate, they say, why would he advocate for this? I give people a different angle, a different reason to think. I'm also a very proud member of the NAACP in Montgomery County, and I was very proud to be on their nominating committee this past fall. You learn a lot from listening. I like getting out in the community. Es muy importante que tengo una persona que habla un poquito de español también. I want to be there for everyone. I want to use an equity lens in everything I do, and I will serve you well.
Thank you, Paul. Bernice?
So in terms of equity and inclusion, that is the part of who I am as a civic activist. When I did run for state's attorney, which was county-wide, people thought I was foolish to go door to door, but I did it because I wanted to make sure people that weren't able to get to the town halls virtually or in person, they weren't able to get to the county meetings, got a chance to be heard. I am the product of equity and inclusion. I grew up in Montgomery County where there weren't a lot of Ghanaian immigrants, but I worked my way up because I had people that cared about me and cared about me having equal access to better opportunity. And that's why I am a lawyer. That's why I was a prosecutor. That's why I am a civic leader and a public servant. That's what makes equity and inclusion so special. You get to produce such great individuals in Montgomery County. So it is very critical to have that continue on. And that really involves going door to door and talking to people where they are to get their ideas and bring them into the fold in Annapolis and other parts of the county. Now, in terms of fiscal appropriations and accountability, those are very important elements of what we do, or what we're all trying to do as delegates as District 14. The moral document, budgets are a moral document. So making sure that we're accounting for every penny and every dollar is critical, and accountability is critical as well. I actually serve on the Attorney Agreements Commission and previously on the Judicial Inquiry Board. So I am making sure that when elected delegate, I will make sure that my job is done for the people, and accountability is critical to making that happen.
Thank you, Bernice. Raj?
So the question was equitable distribution, inclusion, and fiscal appropriation and accountability. Okay, got it. So you have to have broad-based development in any location. You must have equity and inclusion so that all sections and all residents benefit. If there's no equitable distribution, then some people are going to get very rich and some people are going to get left out. So you can't have that. You need to have everybody benefiting from the funds coming into the district. How do you do that? You set criteria for projects. You make sure that every project has the required criteria where equitable distribution, equitable inclusion is a key criteria. So that's how you make sure that projects are executed so that they benefit the larger, broad-based community of the residents. That's number one. Now, for fiscal appropriation and accountability, again, projects have to succeed on time, on budget, on schedule. So you make sure they execute on time and within budget. For getting fiscal dollars, I would work with the team. We have an excellent team in District 14. Work with them to make sure we fight for our share. You fight for your share, you get your share, you plan your projects, you set correct criteria, and you make sure the project's criteria are met where equity and inclusion are the key goals for implementation.
Thank you, Raj. Matt?
There is not a single policy issue in our state or community that is not a racial justice issue. This should permeate all of our work. I mean, just look at the statistics in Maryland. Over half of English, or in our district, over half of English language learner students aren't graduating. Maternal mortality rates are twice as high for Black women in Maryland than white women, and 4 times as high for Latino women. These disparities are a disgrace, and addressing them will be my #1 priority. I'll fight to ensure that every Marylander, regardless of where you come from, what you look like, or the language you speak, has a fair shot here. Our next delegate needs to constantly be out in our diverse community, listening to what folks need and working alongside them to make it happen. That's my record on the school board. I met with our English language learner students, and when they shared with me that we offer almost no mental health supports for ESOL students in languages other than English, I returned to the school board and secured $750,000 for ESOL mental health support staff in our budget. I believe in meeting people where they are, particularly folks who are not already engaged in our democratic process. And those are disproportionately low-income folks, people of color, and those who are undocumented and can't vote. As delegate, I won't just knock doors during election time, and I won't just knock the doors of Democrats. My staff and I will go door to door in the precincts of our district with the lowest voter turnout and talk to everyone, see what problems they're facing and how our state can help. So, whether it's education, housing, climate, workers' rights, I'll listen to the folks most directly affected and work with them to close these horrible gaps.
Thank you, Matt. Jody?
Excuse me, I really take this question to heart, and I think it's really a hard question to answer. At the heart of social work, social workers are always trying to figure out the best way to not only enable access and enhance access, but really what is the best way to ensure equity and inclusion for all. So really, this is not an easy question to answer. But what I do want to say about this is that it really takes a village. It takes a team. It takes a lot of what people have already said, but to really ensure equity and inclusion, it first takes a definition and understanding that definition and making sure people can implement that. And I think that's how you will be able to, or we'll all be able to use that definition and impact equity and inclusion. I think you said in legislation and fiscal responsibility. There have been lots of towns and I think even states that have an equity inclusion office that often take a look at bills or policies and legislations and look at it through their specific point of view to see how best will this work? How best are we including individuals? How best are we ensuring equality and equity? And they're doing it along the same lines as they would write a fiscal note. So what is the impact fiscally? And what would be the impact on equity and inclusion if this bill was passed? Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Doug?
Oh, okay, sorry. There have been so many answers, I forgot what the question was, but is this the summing up?
No, it's not. Peter, do you want to
Okay.
repeat the question?
Yes, please, the last part of it.
Yeah, Doug, the question is, please outline how you will ensure equity and inclusion in policymaking, fiscal appropriation, and accountability. That's it.
I think we need to look at the issues of equity and fairness between the races and newcomers to our societies. We need to look at them from the ground up. And we need a more thorough and complete analysis.
Can't hear you, Doug. You're not muted in Zoom, but your microphone is disconnected. Can't hear you. Peter, why don't we move on to
Yeah,
closing
summations,
statements?
yeah. Why don't we do this then? We're at the point in time where we're now going to provide each person opportunity to provide closing statements. It's 60 seconds in length. And we're going to start with Tom Smith on this. Tom?
Thank you, Peter. Tonight, we have heard about some of the worries, frustrations, and systemic challenges facing our district. Yet, I am honestly hopeful because after spending the past year listening on the doorsteps of thousands of my neighbors, during each conversation, we shared about our model for change with listen, learn, and then lead. In the July election, we were honored to have received the most votes of any non-incumbent in D14 in the past 20 years, with 5,564 of our neighbors casting their ballot for us. That's why I'm humbly asking for your support to serve as a member of this team while I work tirelessly alongside my colleagues to uphold my commitment to hold town halls each and every month from East County to Up County. I also know I cannot tackle these challenges alone and will aim to expand these town halls to include change makers in the community with our elected leaders as well as our amazing nonprofit leaders. It is only together that we have the best chance to foster hope in the community and create lasting change alongside our neighbors. Thank you. And please go to my website, Tom Smith for Maryland, for further info. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Matt?
This is our moment. In a few weeks, we will officially have a Democratic governor, a Democratic legislature, and a mandate from the people of our state to build a more just and equitable Maryland. We deserve a third delegate who's ready to represent this community in the fight for that progress. I know the challenges we face in this district because I grew up with them. They're the challenges of my own family, of the teachers who have mentored me, of the kids I coached at my pool. They're the challenges born of public institutions whose potential has not yet been met. And they're what led me to get involved in the first place. We deserve a delegate with the energy and elected legislative experience to address those challenges head on. As a former member of the school board, I understand what it takes to negotiate, compromise, and make more equitable policies because I've done it. I'm asking for your support today in this defining moment for our state, because our best chance to make progressive change in Maryland is right now. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Jody? You're muted, Jody.
Thanks for reminding all of us. I am a community advocate and have spent more than 25 years working hard to improve the lives of women and families. I'm also a consensus builder. Through the leadership and roles that I've held currently in the community and with Montgomery County government, my collaboration with communities at the local level has changed policies at the state and even federal level. More importantly, and something that I will certainly bring to the delegate position, I am a compassionate and committed voice for all, and as a delegate, I will build on my advocacy and legislative successes. Your support for me will also mean support for women's rights, the future of families, children, and the progress of Maryland. Again, I'm Jody Finkelstein, and thank you all so much for having me, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Jody. Paul?
Thank you very much to the Jerry Samet District 14 Democratic Brunch Club. I could see Jerry in his hat right now, really enjoying this forum tonight. So thank you for sponsoring it. To the members of the D14 community and to the MCDCC members, I humbly ask for your support, your vote on January 3rd. I've worked long and hard behind the scenes, very quietly, making sure that more than $1 billion in additional investment has been made in Montgomery County Public Schools, as well as schools around the state. I have 881,000 reasons to offer for you to give me this job. Those are our public school students around the state. And while District 14 schools are very important, we need to make sure all of our kids are succeeding. We need to make sure our economy here in D14 succeeds, and we need to make sure that our seniors are well taken care of. I ask for your vote and your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Doug? We can't hear you, Doug. Doug, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Okay, I'm going to move on. Mr. Rahman? And I'll come back to you, Doug. Go ahead, sir.
We have come in an era in the time we are passing through a very critical time of the history. the 14th district is a very good district in our state of Maryland. If we know there may be problems, there may be, but at the same time there are prospects. If we work together, this problem can be solved. And if I be given the opportunity with my training, professionalism, and my dedication to the community service, where MCC now having more than 100,000 encounters, serving 15,000 people, it is a proof that if people start doing something for the community and the country, it can be better than, in the words of our president, who on 25th August at Richard Montgomery County said, failure at a certain point of life is inevitable, but
Thank you, sir.
up is
Thank you, sir.
unforgivable.
That's time.
We should not be a
Bernice?
victim of unforgiveness.
Thank you, sir. Bernice.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the, well, now 139 strong that are still on the call tonight. I'm Bernice American North, running to be the next delegate for District 14. I mentioned that I'm a child of immigrants in Montgomery County because that is the lens in which I'm pursuing a lot of my policy proposals that I've talked about earlier tonight, and why I want to represent District 14 as diverse as it is. From where I am in Colesville all the way up to little nuggets of Clarksburg and Damascus and a little slither of Germantown, as well as everywhere in between in East County and Brookville, Burtonsville, Fairland. This is a diverse area that I know I can thrive because I've experienced that life being in Montgomery County. And it's an area where I want to promote greater public safety measures, making sure we're fair for all of us, making sure that we have equal access to resources and not just for the few that are able to go and advocate, meet people where they are, because the problems are still there, whether they're at the forums or at the county council or at the Annapolis. They still need help. And based upon my experiences living in Montgomery County as a prosecutor, as a legal and community advocate, I know I'm the best person for this job, moving us forward in our diverse District 14. I ask for your support on January 3rd. And for those who have some time during the holidays,
Bernice.
December 29th is a deadline to file for your support.
Thanks. Doug?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I apologize for all these problems. I promise if I'm appointed, I'll become an expert in using Zoom, but I'm not going to use it for constituent meetings. I want to echo what Mr. Post said, a very good comment about the need to deal with our racial problems and divisions within our society. I have an approach that I hope will work, and that I think will work in dealing with specific issues. It's this. A little slogan, think radically, but act moderately. That means put the whole spectrum of potential solutions on the table. Don't just think within a narrow scope. The state does a lot. We live in a rich state with a highly educated population, but I don't see the state taking on the big problems in a way that would really make a difference. We need to move beyond the age of the car. We need to have new transportation solutions. We need to make room for cyclists and make room for people who walk. I would urge the committee to name.
Thank you, Doug. That's time.
I just 10 seconds, please.
10 seconds.
I would urge the committee to name 3 people and let our new dynamic governor decide who serves. This would add an additional element of democracy.
Thank you, Doug. Raj?
Okay, here we are. End of the show now. But so why should I be selected? I've not been in politics before, so why should you select me? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons. First one is I'm looking for an opportunity to serve. I'm a federal employee now. I have a very comfortable government job. I'm willing to give it up on January 3rd and come down and take this position and work my butt off. Sorry for the language, but I'm willing to work really work hard. Why do I want to do that? Because I love Maryland. I've been here for 12 years. I want to make this the best place to live in the US. I will do, and it starts with our district. So let's get our district, let's get our district up and running to its maximum potential. So why should you select me? 30 years I've been working on projects. 30 years I've been successful. I know how to execute. I know how to fight for money. I've gone after government funds for my projects. I've built consensus. I know how to talk to stakeholders. I know how to execute. That's what you really need. You need someone who can execute projects and get District 14 up and running.
Thank you,
I'm your
Raj.
guy.
Paul?
I've dedicated my entire adult life to public service, and what I'm hoping is that I get the opportunity to continue that as a delegate for District 14. I will no longer keep you in suspense. I know you're all waiting to hear. The other two priorities I had was safety and the environment. And by safety, I'm not just talking about having to deal with hate crimes, which is a real issue, and the gun issue, which I have a lot of experience working with ATF at the federal level to address the gun show loophole at the state level. But also Vision Zero, we got to get that thing moving because we've done the assessments and now we have to have the investments to protect even pedestrian and bicycles and high risk locations. But I do want to end on talking about that legislation about senior migration to tax-friendly states. The reason why that legislation was so critical is not just to throw a bone to seniors, but to stem the tide, because when they go to Delaware or Pennsylvania, they're not going there for the weather, and they take their.
Thank you, Paul. That's time. Nathan, bring us home.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us this evening. We live in an amazing district with great parks, forests, and green spaces. Our children are taught by the most dedicated teachers around, but there is much work to be done. Our public safety has been threatened by senseless violence, such as the recent murder of a Shell gas station clerk just down the street from my home. We need accountable and professional law enforcement with the resources to protect our community while also respecting our residents of all backgrounds. And we must ensure that the people of this district and our children can continue to afford living here. Simply put, we must build more housing, but we must build it in an equitable way that is affordable to current residents while protecting our environmental treasures and respecting established communities. This is not easy work, but it must be done and we can do it. And should I be given the honor and privilege to represent this great district in the Maryland House of Delegates, this is what I will fight to do. What is at stake is stark but simple. Will the young people in this district, our families, our children, have the right to live in the communities where we grew up? Or will they be displaced from all that we have worked so hard to build here?
Thank you, Nathan. Peter. Parting, you're muted, sir. Parting words of wisdom.
Yes. Yeah, we're at the end of our session. I'd like to thank all of the applicants for the vacant seat. A great thank you this evening. Without you, I think we wouldn't have learned as much as we did about each of you. I'd also like to thank Saman from the MCDCC and Michael for providing us the resources that we needed to hold this hybrid session or this virtual session. Michael for his expertise in running this show, making it go smoothly. I'd also like to thank my team, the members of the District 14 Democratic Club that sort of pulled this together to make it happen. And basically everybody else who showed up for the session to listen, to look. And basically, like I say, Tom's going to put send out an email message directing you to this presentation here. But what I'm going to ask Michael to do is also add our club's email address, because we're looking for new members. We're getting up there in the age, and we need replenishment, especially younger replenishment on the other end. So if you're interested, please respond to us, and we'd love to have younger people in our club. And with that, again, I'd like to thank all of our elected officials for participating, especially in the chat session as I've been reviewing it. And thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Peter.
Do be safe. Do be safe over the weekend.
Thank you, Peter. I just want to remind everyone that the Central Committee will be meeting on January 3 to select someone that we will recommend to the governor for appointment to this vacancy. That meeting is open to the public, and the details will be in the weekly MCDCC newsletter. And with that, I'd just like to invite everyone to unmute and say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paul,
Peter.
Nice evening. Thank you.
Yes.
Michael.
Thank you. you.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Happy
holidays,
holidays.
everyone.
yeah.
Be
Take care,
safe.
everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for
Happy
coming tonight.
holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Let's just take the vote right here.
Go ahead,
All
Mike.
right,
Go.
bye.
Nighty night.
I'm
Good
not
night.
sure that
Thanks,
would be in
Bernice.
proper
Thanks,
order.
Paul.
Thank you.
I'll pull
Thank
what
you,
we all
Michelle.
say
Thank you.
all at once. Ready?
Holidays.
Thanks, Paul.
Good night.
Thank you, Peter.
Good night, all. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.